Well, hello everybody. This is the other Andy, and welcome to The Theater of the Mind by Andy Molnar. I wanted to go over procurement with you one more time, this time in a kind of expedited way because it is a review. But remember, there are three processes. The first one is your typical plan procurement management, and in the end, I'm going to get a procurement management plan. And it will detail how I'm going to plan, conduct, and control procurements. It's pretty typical. It's now my subsidiary plan in detail. But it also does a make or buy analysis as a tool, and then a make or buy decision is recorded in the procurement management plan. So I wanted to point that out. It will also document my procurement strategy. Like, did I pick a fixed price, time and material, or cost reimbursable contract after working with my procurement manager? Now, conduct procurements is when you hold the bidders conference, you advertise, you collect their proposals, and bam, you award a contract with some negotiation at the end of it. And that's done in the executing process group, conduct procurements. And then control procurements is largely about managing the relationships that this contract stipulates, right? Now I wanted to point out, we've seen this slide many times, but in terms of procurement management, remember I'm going to plan procurement management here in planning. Then in executing, I'm going to conduct procurements. And then in closing, right, normally we'd wait till the end of the phase or project to close the project or phase. But procurements is a little bit different. We are closing procurements as they end, regardless of when they're at. Now, I also wanted to emphasize a couple of different relationships that are important to you in procurement management. One is you, yay, and the procurement manager. Remember, the procurement manager is the only one legally by federal law authorized to spend money, of course outside the CEO or somebody, right? But they're the ones that are authorized to obligate funds on behalf of the company. I am not, as the project manager. So we want a good relationship because remember, it's my scope, schedule, and cost. I primarily want them to negotiate on my behalf. In fact, I want to be in the meetings with them because the contract in the end, it's a formality and it needs to be right, and my deliverable needs to be built. There's another set of relationships for exam questions, and that's buyer and seller. Know that I, the project manager, am generally the buyer on the exam. I would expect that. And that others are a seller. And that seller is going to have a project manager also, right? And a procurement manager. But me as the buyer, I'm going to build a statement of work and offer up some terms and conditions that I'll discuss with my procurement manager that make it binding. And I mean binding in a good way. Okay, remember we talked about procurement organizations. Some are centralized, some are decentralized. There are pros and cons to each. Know the differences between the two. That's an easy test question, right? A centralized one is going to have experts that are trained and have templates and reach back, but they're not necessarily focused just on your project. Now, a decentralized procurement officer is probably loyal to you, but they're not getting the back home support they need in the end, bottom line. Now, this is one more time a summary, quick summary, screenshot of the three processes: plan procurement management, conduct procurements, and control procurements. Really nothing new here, but sure is worth a pause on the video that you get in your email and a review, right? Remember, you're doing you're going to build a procurement statement of work, and if it's detailed, it's probably going to lean towards a fixed price contract. You're going to figure out the contract type by talking to the procurement manager. In fact, they will also help you with the procurement strategy that the company has. You're going to do a make or buy analysis. That's your tool. And then you're going to end up with a make or buy decision as an output goes inside of your procurement management plan. I'm even going to get some independent cost estimates and develop my bid documents in advance. I'll use the bid documents here in Conduct Procurements, but I've built them in advance. Then in Conduct Procurements, I'm having bidders conferences, I'm advertising, I'm answering questions, and making sure everybody knows the answers to those questions. I don't keep secrets, I don't play favorites in open competition. I'm going to deliver the bid documents, I'm going to collect the seller's proposals, I'm going to evaluate them based on the weighted criteria, and I'm going to award or sign the contract. Actually, the procurement manager will, but I'm going to make sure it's done. Now, in control procurements, it's normally a typical control process, but this time the contract is binding again. And so it's about managing the relationships according to the contract. Now, in plan procurement management, remember I am tying that business case at the strategic level to my own project strategy, to that procurement strategy, very important. And we talked about OPAs, right? The type of contract that the company has established that they want to pursue. It could be fixed price, cost reimbursable, or time and material. Your procurement manager is going to help you with that. And you may even have a pre-approved seller list as an OPA. Now this slide we spent some time on. I thought it was fabulous. Are the three, so besides the three processes, you have three types of contracts. Fixed price, which is the most common, known as lump sum. A time and material, which is a hybrid between fixed price and cost reimbursable, and then a cost reimbursable contract. Take some time to memorize these various differences between them. This slide is several test questions. Also notice that the fixed price incentive fee has a formula to it, so does cost plus incentive fee. Also, fixed price incentive fee is the only one with point of total assumption. Now, speaking of those, here are the types of contracts broken out in detail from firm fixed price, or just call it fixed price, right? Some people like to add an extra F in there. But you want to know these definitions, but you really want to know that in fixed price incentive fee contracts, you have two formula options. The payment, which is the target cost minus actual cost, times the seller share ratio, usually around 20%, plus the target fee. The other formula is, when am I done paying you extra incentives, give me my product. And that's the point of total assumption. And here's that formula there. We went through some examples yesterday. Now in cost, remember that share ratio, 80-20, could be 70-30, could be 60-40, whatever you and your procurement thinks is needed to attract the right sellers. I typically use 80-20, but remember the first number is the buyer and the second number is the seller, okay? Buyer and seller. And notice these formulas talk about the seller's share ratio and accept the point of total assumption. That's the buyer's share ratio. But in the formula for cost plus incentive fee, notice, as I said yesterday, it's the same formula as the fixed price incentive fee payment. The fixed price incentive fee payment, but notice it's the seller's share ratio again. So the only one with the buyer's share ratio is the point of total assumption. Now this is very important. You need to understand, you as the buyer, the project manager, where risk is at. And risk to you is the least here in green, and as you move left away from the arrow, left towards cost plus percentage of cost, it gets more risky all the time. You must know that for the exam. There are test questions in that regard. Remember in plan procurement management, we talked about a tool called make or buy analysis, right? What's my payback period? What if I do it this way? And what about our source selection analysis, right? Am I looking for least cost? Am I looking for qualifications? Maybe quality and high technology? Maybe quality and cost base, sole source, or fixed budget? There are lots of things to consider. In plan procurements as an output, I have my procurement management plan. Yay! And this, I said, included your procurement strategy, your bid documents done in advance. I won't really use them until conduct procurements, but there they are in the books in your plan. I've built my procurement statement of work, and if it's not very detailed, I'm probably not leaning towards a fixed price contract. And of course, the make or buy decision along the way. Okay. We did talk about when information is required. I'm just going to do an RFI. That's a request for information, right? I might even do an invitation for bid later. Now, when I really want to contract it out and whatever proposal they give me can be legally binding, I want to do a request for quotation if my contract is focused on cost, or a request for proposal, which the contract then is focused on the requirements more than the cost. We're always concerned about cost, of course. Now notice in conduct procurements, holy snarkies, 21 inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs. Oh my. But that's okay. Contracts, remember, are made to build your deliverable, which incorporates requirements from all your knowledge areas. That's going to make sense to me. And I want to learn lessons as I do contracts because they're expensive. And I want to learn lessons and apply them. Also, one of the inputs when I conduct would be the seller's proposal. That makes sense to me because remember, in conducting procurements, I want to pick a seller. So as an input, I would need their proposal. Some of the tools we can do is a bidder's conference, etc. And we've talked about those. Nothing really new. In conduct procurements, at the very end of it, once I think I have found my player, right? I want to negotiate with it. In fact, first, if there are two players that are close to each other, I might have them do a bake-off or come do independent presentations, see if they can wow us. Who wants to build that relationship? But then I'm going to work on negotiating. Now, with fixed price contracts, there's really very little to nothing to negotiate. The scope was complete, and often we pick the lowest bidder. Cost reimbursable and time and material, I would negotiate much more. But I can even negotiate for the test. You would not really consider negotiation in a fixed price contract. And you want to be involved in that negotiation. And the key things, you always want to go towards win-win. And the key items to negotiate are your performance measurement baseline, scope, schedule, cost, your baselines. Yes, that makes sense. Oh, I wish I was with you guys tonight. All right, so then in control procurements, remember it's all about managing the relationships. And sometimes contracts are completed and closed. Sometimes they're terminated and closed, right? I can terminate for cause, like a breach, or convenience. Especially the federal government can do that because the taxpayer who is going to do is being represented isn't really involved in the contract. So the law allows that, the courts. But no matter what, if I terminate a contract, I am still going to go through the closing process. And that pretty much wraps it up. Okay, this is the summary slide. I think it's worth pausing the video and going through it, making sure that you are comfortable with it. Okay? Again, another test question. I'm sure. In what process is an output the signed contract? And that's in conduct procurements. Okay, see you guys on the other side. Good luck.